Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Sunday Live, letting go of 2018, a year in review. Live via the Awaken the World YouTube channel. Today is the 30th of December, 2018. It is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, this is it. This is the end of 2018. 2018's been an interesting year, that's for sure. I know ours started out in the spring with our basement flooding and other things damaged around our property and big holes in the ground to fix leaks and all sorts of nasty things. And for a while, it felt like all the work we had done was disintegrating right in front of us. So funny. And yet here we are towards the end of 2018, and everything has been returned. We put a lot of work into it, and it's better than it ever was. It's improved again. This is the thing. Here we are, one day before the end of the year. You're still here. Way to go. You survived. You made it. Wasn't that bad? Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you. All the holiday greetings and Happy New Year. It's coming. And hopefully we'll see you at some point tomorrow for our day at the monastery too, via the Awaken the World Facebook page. So, here we are. You survived. Really, the question is, you're still here? Question mark. What does that mean? Well, you're still here. Here's the deal. If you're still here, it's glorious. It means your mission isn't done yet. You have not finished what you've accomplished to do in this life. Surviving 2018, we really got to look at 2018. There are a lot of things that happened that drove us to judgment. Drove divisiveness between us. Whether it was through politics or the actions of our political leaders or events happening around the world, even in our own lives, 2018 has been an upsetting time for many people. It really has been. What is it about our judgments? What is it about judging in 2018? When we look back at our existence, when we really, really sit down and look closely, and I'm a prime example of that, okay, and you are too, every one of us is. I faced sexual abuse from my father at a very young age, and then a different sort of psychological and emotional abuse from a sick mother. I grew up hating my parents at first, until I came to understand that I had actually chosen them and that they had only done the best with the level of consciousness they had had. Every single event in my life, from falling out of a perfectly good airplane and having a chute fail and hitting the ocean at terminal velocity and spending a lot of time in a hospital with half of my bones broken and physically dying on the operating table, not once but twice. Bouncing off rocks after hundreds of meters of dropping and somehow living through it and suffering through it. And yet, no matter what my judgment about it was, here I am. I'm still here. And all of those things I perceived as so painful and so negative, really, it's just a habit of thought because I can't actually conceptualize what it felt like anymore. I can't remember the pain. I just remember it hurt. And what's really remembering it hurt? Well, I'm not the same me that I was then. You are not the same you today that you were at the start of 2018. This is the beauty of our existence. In 2018, you have experienced massive growth. You had to have. You're here. You're here right now. You have evolved, no matter what your judgments on it. It has all been perfect. It has all been exactly what was needed, exactly what was required. Now, we tend to look at those things and say, well, was it necessary that children starve to death? And of course, it's not necessary, is it? But it is necessary until we finally choose to create a world where they do not. You know, I was speaking with Kelly about this yesterday, and we were talking about the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't know if I have my copy handy here. Maybe I do. Oh, no, wrong book. Hun, do you mind grabbing me the Bhagavad Gita out of that book pile over there on the basket? In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is, being spoken to by Krishna, and Krishna is trying to relay to him the truth of existence. And I know, thank you, sweetie. I know this is a little sudden, but I'm just going to pick it up and see if I can actually find that. Here it is, right here. You may grieve sincerely, Arjuna, but it is without cause. Your words seem wise, but the truly wise one grieves neither for the living nor the dead. And they're standing on the battlefield, and Arjuna has given up his will to fight. He sees his brothers and sisters on one side, his relatives on the other side, and he's mortified at the idea of going into combat with loved ones, with people whom he called friend at one point and family. And Arjuna says, or Krishna says to him, there has never been a time when I or you or any of these kings and soldiers here did not exist. And there will never be a time when any of us here cease to exist. Physical bodies appear and disappear, but the life force within them, the soul, continues. It comes and dwells in a body for a while. While therein it experiences infancy, childhood, youth, old age, death, suffering, pain, eventually passes on to a new body. Changes such as death pertain to the body. Do not get caught up in the illusion that you are this body. You know, more and more our own science is coming up with the concept that indeed our consciousness that we perceive we have at an egoic level is a result of our unconscious mind, and that we are not actually that conscious at all. And from that mind level, I find that completely correct. Spiritually speaking, and if we were to listen to the Bhagavad Gita, that body is a natural vehicle, a natural occurrence, a natural development within the field of nature that the creative essence of the universe itself put into motion to experience itself. It evolves on its own, as we are evolving on our own. Every experience, every event, evolving you, but not harming that which you are. That which dies and passes away is the vehicle through which our awareness takes in the experience. That which we truly are absorbs the experience of this physical realm. In 2018, you're coming to the end now of a year of being absorbed and experiencing this physical realm. Your judgments on the growth that you experienced, no matter how you choose to label it, they're going to determine 2019 for you. You know, there's a lot of things that we need to let go of. And in Kelly's case, she still hasn't let go of her family. And I have a picture here of some of her family, and it's hidden behind the screen for some reason, but there's kind of that grinny, smiley face there in green. What does it mean to let go of your family? If you had difficulties with your family in 2018, letting go of them doesn't mean not loving them. Letting go of anything in our lives that is no longer serving us does not mean we stop loving it. Does not mean we don't love what we shared with it in some way. Even those bad things that we would label as bad, we grew from them too. We don't have to continue to spend time with those people who we had bad experiences with, but we can open ourselves to a little bit of gratitude that in the worst and the roughest experience, the toughest of teachers, we tend to grow the most. We also tend to face the lessons we needed to hear the most. If you can look at 2018 from the point objectively of your own conscious evolution and take away the idea of blame and fault, and instead see things from a place of your responsibility for your choices, your reactions, to love what you created in 2018, even if you perceive it didn't serve you, because in you realizing it didn't serve you, it was serving you. It was doing that which was needed to make you aware that that was not the direction you wanted to be going, that that was not what you wanted to create. We all find in 2018, the more I see the posts and the general trends going on the internet and in newspapers and in media, 2018 was a tough year all over the planet. Realize deeply and hopefully with some gratitude that no matter who you are right now, if you have the ability to see my face and hear my voice, your year may have been hard. But I promise you there are hundreds of millions who suffered more. That's the truth of things. It's really easy for us to forget how many blessings we truly have. I see a lot of posts involved around the personal drama they're creating with their own minds and talks about how miserable their lives are. And I was there once too. No matter what you have, somehow there's something that's still going to make you miserable. And despite all the good things in your existence, the one thing you want to cling to is that one thing that makes you miserable. 2018 was a year of realizing it's all in your head. All of it. Your entire existence has to be processed through the filter of that egoic consciousness, that vehicle. You can think of all your senses as sensors on a car, picking up its environment and information from the environment. Look closely at the last year and allow yourself to drop your hasty judgments on 2018. I know there's many people out there who lost a lot in 2018 or perceive that they lost. We honestly never felt that way when we lost, using the wording that we use in our language, our basement, and so much of the beautiful yard we had created. And instead, what happens is that we find in the rubble of the destruction that the destruction was necessary to make the space, to empty the cup, to kick us in the ass sometimes, to head in the right direction, to let go of those last things we're clinging to. Why? Not so the universe can beat us up, but so that we can grow. What is coming will be so much more. And Jennifer, that goes for you too. What is coming will be so much more if you have that attitude of gratitude and abundance in your existence for 2019. You know, a lot of what we see in society in 2018 is really all about two steps back. And I had mentioned this to Kelly the other day. You know, one of the interesting things is about two steps back is whenever we're going to take a jump, we always back up a couple of steps. That's the way I view what's happening with our society. Our society is pushing itself back against the rubber band of a giant slingshot. You know, it's pushing and pushing against, you know, it's pulling that rubber band back. And in that leather cup, there isn't a big marble, there's the entirety of the human race. And the more we push back, the more we're stretching and tightening that rubber. And these two steps back are going to be followed by a few more steps back yet. And then we're going to have a magnificent opportunity right here in 2019 to propel ourselves and the whole of the human race into a waking state of consciousness. A state of true consciousness, of conscious awareness of the connectivity and oneness of us all. How glorious that would be. The realization that we are all one and it is all one must be felt by everybody. You know, I'm going to tell you a little story to try to illustrate this point, and this is very superficial. It goes so much deeper than this when you begin to think about it, okay? But the other night, it was the day after Christmas, so Boxing Day, I was outside in the evening by myself. It was about 9:30 at night. Dark. It was snowing. It was very still. And I was contemplating the joy of my relationship with Kelly and how much I love just simply being in her presence. And in that moment, I heard a door slam and I heard some angry yelling beginning. And I heard what sounded like someone who was clearly intoxicated, yelling and banging on the door, trying to get back in. And then I heard a neighbor's door open and more yelling beginning. And it was some distance from our area and in other houses further down the road. But on that quiet evening, the sound carried so far, and I can hear particularly well. My world became not as perfect in that moment. Not because I found it disturbing on a superficial level. How dare you violate the silence of the evening? But more an upwelling of sadness that we still don't live in a world where I could walk over to that neighbor and do what I could for them. You know, as long as there is anyone suffering on this planet, we are all suffering in some way. We are all missing out on something. And it goes far beyond the shallow physical ideas that I see rampant in our society today. And this is what I mean about two steps back. You know, the battle against the homeless people in around Vernon here alone and being mirrored across the country and down in the States, it's getting simply ridiculous. Christmas, the 23rd of December, kicking people out of their tents, telling them they can no longer be there. The bylaw officers somehow compassionately bulldozing down what meager belongings they have. Until we see the oneness in everyone. Until the sight of someone suffering cannot be stomached by any of us and is dealt with in a heartbeat with compassionate action, we have a long way to go. A lot of times we can use our sight in reverse, looking backwards to see forward, right? And also vice versa. We can look forward to see behind us. Now, we must do this always from a state of objectivity because, you know, the past is not a place that we want to do anything else except stop by for occasional reference. But we can look back at the last year and see the course of where the power and control structure on this planet is going. And where they're going is towards war. More and more conflict between nations. 2019 is going to be a year of necessary choosing of peace. At each and every level, beginning with you and I. Radiating peace. The dysfunction we see within the world today between countries, driving two countries to war, is the exact same dysfunction that exists in a family who war amongst each other over beliefs or politics or ideals. There was a fantastic little video out today by a young Muslim gentleman. He does videos on YouTube and Facebook, and they're fantastic. And in this one, he was speaking of himself and growing up in a small village, being Muslim, he thought he was right. But one day, in order to be honest with himself, he had to admit that maybe his village didn't have right, and that indeed there was no right or wrong. There was simply acceptance. The idea that no matter what you choose to believe, I'm okay with that. Those are your beliefs. It doesn't take away from the fact that you're a human being, that you have the same basic needs, should be accorded the same basic rights. We can all see in our lives how we have allowed ourselves to justify our behavior to others based on what we would perceive as differences in any of those areas. Color of skin, choice in wardrobe, political choices, religious choices, even simply as to what part of town that you live in. "2019 needs to be a year of unity of the human race, and that unity starts with ourselves. It starts with being willing to surrender to every moment brought to you, to no longer be willing. Yet, in 2018, the number of people I watched beating their heads up against the wall, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. Why is that there? Complain, 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 march, 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 push, push, push. We tend to do that thinking that we're doing the right thing. And again, there is no right or wrong. The results of what we're doing are what we need to look at, though. And the results of that are that we actually lend it energy. We lend those things we don't want strength. At the same time that it begins to tear apart our own energetic body field from the dissonance that we are creating over it. Kelly and I were talking about anger yesterday, and I said, I still find myself getting angry sometimes, absolutely. And when I'm done with the anger, when the anger's exhausted itself, when that energy has been depleted, in retrospection, I look and see where the trigger was and work with exposing and dealing with that trigger and becoming more aware. But I don't kill myself over it. I don't beat myself up over it. I hold responsibility for it, but no blame. Surrender to those times when you wish to push up against what is. There is an insanity in pushing up against what already exists, because whatever does exist is always a product of what's already been thought, already been said, and already been done. So thinking more on it and saying more on it and doing more on it is only going to make more on it. Choose 2019 in surrendering to the perfection of every moment, to be allowing you conscious choice, to choose to stand consciously for the opposite of what you would see that you judge to be no longer beneficial to the human race or to yourself. Always be wary of your judgments. It is much more preferable to say, I'm going to wait and see how this works out, if you can't believe that it's all going to work out well. Take the one step you can buy into, the one step you can believe in, that it's worth waiting and seeing, to allow yourself just to be open, to surrender to that moment. I predict that 2019 is going to be a year of necessary surrender in many ways for many of us. Climate change, political change, changes in the cost of living and in food production, and a whole plethora of other issues that we are facing as societies and as the human race are going to do one of two things. They're going to either drive us together or they're going to drive us apart. And in the current mentality, the tendency will be to drive us apart. I would ask in you surrendering to 2019, surrendering to allow that sea of consciousness to move through you, that you keep togetherness and oneness at the center of your being. You know, when we talk about what we desire and what we desire for 2019 and what we desired for 2018, there's one thing I've noticed, okay? And I had my vision board up, and I had a lot of things there that I understood represented feelings more than actual physical items. The physical items were simply symbols of what I wanted to feel. Let that all go. Just try it. Even for the first month of 2019. Have only one desire in your heart. The desire to know thyself fully. To love thyself fully. To not look at that egoic entity with that you would call you with disdain or despair or a feeling of lack or somehow being less than, but to realize instead the magnificent glory of your totally unique appearance in the entirety in the 13.8 billion years of this universe's existence. There has never been anything that is quite like you. And no matter the universe lasts another 100 billion years, there will never be another quite like you. You are the same as that entire sea of consciousness, and yet at the same time, you have this magnificent, unique filter through which you experience and take in your experiences of your existence. Learn to become at peace. You deserve it. You truly do. And it's available for you right now, right here, and through all of 2019. No matter what has occurred, no matter how you choose to judge anything that occurred to you in 2018, I would ask you to consider that on some level, you planned much of it. You certainly created it consciously or unconsciously, and you created it in harmony and sometimes disharmony with many others around you, and yet in that magnificent, glorious web of life, it is all made perfect. It all serves. It all leads to your growth, your evolution. Thank you for being with us through 2018. We're looking forward to our day at the monastery tomorrow, which will be right on the Facebook Awaken the World page, not the group page, but right on the page so that publicly anyone can attend. Just come to the page, join the event, and hop in at any time. We'll have meditations, more discussions about letting go in 2018 and setting our intentions, firming our desire to know ourselves deeply in the coming year. Much love to you all. Namaste. Thank you for being with us here throughout 2018. You have made it magnificent for us. Again, our love, and take care.